Hello friends, welcome back to Francesca's Books. My name is Francesca, these are my books, and here we talk about all things thriller books. And today we're chatting about the books I read in February, including my first 5-star read of 2025. Woohoo! The book I've given 5-star in February, I actually gave it a 4.5 when I first finished it, and then I'm looking back like, no, that was a 5. That was a 5. I've had another really busy month, so I've only managed to get 6 books read this month. Like, not bad, but also like, it's just not my 2024 stats, you know? So with that in mind, I've only picked out 6 books for my March TBR because I just don't want to keep overwhelming myself. Like, I'm here to read for fun. I'm not here to put like loads of pressure on myself to read a certain number of books a month, but lately it's been feeling a little bit that way. So before we dive in, let me know which was your favourite read of February in the comments. I always need more amazing book recommendations, and if you enjoy this video and enjoy my channel, don't forget to subscribe for more. So I read 6 books in February, have 6 books on my March TBR, and without further ado, I'm going to tell you about them. So the first book that I read in February was a reread of The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. As soon as I saw this was becoming a film, I was like, reread. And I also was like, is it as good as I remember? I read this quite a few years ago. I wasn't sure whether I rated this 5-star because I was at the start of my reading journey and like quite easily impressed. So I've reread it and yeah, it's a 5-star again. I think if anything, I enjoyed it more the second time because I knew Frida's writing style. I kind of could compare it to her other books, and I mean, yeah, I just flew through it in a couple of days. For the slim minority of people that won't have read this book yet, it follows an ex-con, Millie, and she goes to work for a very wealthy family as a housemaid, and everything's going great until she realizes the room she's been put up in the attic only locks from the outside. There is so many suspicious characters, there is so much gaslighting, she has no idea who to trust. So I did rate this 5-star again, but that is not my 5-star read of February. I have a new book that I'm about to tell you about, but not just yet. Let's talk about the other ones first. So next I read another Mary Kubica book. So this month I read Don't You Cry. As we all know by now, I am absolutely loving this author. But this one, again, wasn't my favourite of her backlist. I'm still very firmly on She's Not Sorry being my favourite Mary Kubica book. I rated this one 3.5. It was a really good, solid thriller, but just not wow. You know, there's nothing wow about it. So this is a classic missing person thriller. We've got our female main character whose roommate goes missing without a trace, and then we've got another point of view of a barista in a coffee shop, and he sees this like really kind of like enigmatic, strange woman who keeps coming in the coffee shop, and he's like, I'm gonna follow her and see what is her deal. I think compared to this author's other books, this was more of a slow burn. I think this is probably the slowest burn of her books that I've read, but don't let that put you off. This was still an amazing book. It's only because I'm reading this so much from this author, like back to back, I've got like a direct comparison. I feel like if I read these all like 6 months apart, I would probably come back to them with like a higher opinion, if that makes sense. It had a really strong opening, and the end was really rewarding as well. I feel like in the middle, I just kind of lost my way with it a little bit, but still very good. Still really recommend. We love you, Mary Kubica. And then I wanted to try something a little bit different, so I picked up Orbital by Samantha Harvey. So this won the Booker Prize in 2024, and it's basically a love story to planet Earth. So just hear me out. I thought this was going to be like a little bit more thrill, a little bit more science fiction, but it ended up being just like a very poetic literary novel that's just set in space. I don't even know. Honestly, I'm not even really sure what I read. So it's like 140 pages and there isn't really a plot. So you're following these 6 astronauts and kind of like their inner dialogue, their conversations, their lives, a little bit like what it was like back on Earth for them, but mainly what it's like for them on the spacecraft that's like orbiting Earth 16 times. So they start referencing this like typhoon that's gonna hit the east of Asia, and they're like tracking it and sending like stats back to Earth on like its location, its position. And I thought, great, we're gonna get some action, we're moving in, there's gonna be some sort of like natural disaster, and there's gonna be like commentary on that. It was kind of like a lot of nothingness, but also the writing was so incredibly poetic. I understand why it's award winning. I still don't really know where I sit on this, so the only rating I could possibly give it is a 2.5, straight down the middle. I don't really know whether I loved it or hated it, despite that being the point of me reading the book. Then I read The Last One at the Wedding by Jason Rekurlak. I absolutely loved Hidden Pictures by this author, so I thought I would pick up his latest release, and it was good. It was a good thriller, solid thriller, nothing wow. That's kind of the theme of this month, honestly. So what I did love about this book, it was rich people drama. So much rich people drama, like Fran was absolutely living. It follows a dad who's invited to his estranged daughter's wedding out of the blue. They've not spoke for 3 years, and then she just calls him up and she's like, Dad, I want you at my wedding. And he's like, oh my God, yeah, like, you know, and tries to like reconciliate and go around it, and it is just full of suspicious characters. So she's marrying into this really wealthy family, like not like wealthy, like wealthy. Like they have basically their own town that's kind of like gated. It's like next level rich. And I will say that the imagery of this place called Osprey Cove where the book was set was second to none. I really, really could picture this. Fantastic job on that. There was also like a subplot about his sister with a foster child and bringing her to the wedding and like their relationship, which I very much enjoyed as well. But in terms of the actual thriller aspect, it was missing the thrill, I think. It was a really good story and there was definitely some mystery to it, and there was some unaliving, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't really on the edge of my seat. So I also gave this one a 3.5. And then of course it wouldn't be a reading month without a romance palette cleanser. So this month I went with Expiration Dates, which was a bit of a different spin on the normal rom-coms I read. So there's a little bit of magical realism in this. So this follows our main character Daphne, who gets these little slips of paper every time she meets a guy with his name on and the length of time that they're gonna go out or be in a relationship or date or whatever. So it kind of digs into these stories a little bit. So it'll tell you the guy's name and how long they were together and like what kind of happened in their relationship. And then one day our female main character gets a slip of paper with just a guy's name and no date on it. So she is like super confused, like I guess he's the one. Like imagine knowing that going in. But there's quite a few subplots going on with this. I think it's more of a love letter to dating and being young and meeting different people than it is the actual premise. I don't know. I would probably categorise this as a contemporary with romance as opposed to like putting it straight in the romance genre, and I've actually just checked the back of the book and it says fiction, not romance, so kind of figures. I did read the second half pretty much in one go. I sat down in a cafe to read a few chapters and yeah, I read like the rest of it. So I gave it a 4 star, really recommend. And then the final book, my first 5 star of 2025 is The Last Party by A.R. Torre. I absolutely loved this. It was dark though, guys. It was definitely dark, but deliciously dark, you know? So as I said, I first finished this book and gave it a 4.5, and then on reflection, I was like, there is nothing I would change about this book. Like, it's a 5. It is a 5. So I have read The Good Lie by this author as well, and I liked that but didn't love it, and that's why it's taken me a little while longer to pick up like any more of her books. But everyone's been talking about this as it is a 2025 release, and I am so glad that I picked it up. So this follows a woman who is obsessed with a serial unaliver who's in prison. So we've got her point of view and the serial unaliver's point of view, and she's basically doing anything and everything she can to get his attention, and you're like, girl, why? And this even goes as far as her own family. Like, I'm talking anything for a bit of attention. And then in the serial unaliver's point of view, there's also a journalist who's visiting him in prison to try and like get to the bottom of his story, as he still claims his innocence. I think knowing any more than that would probably ruin this for you guys, so I'm going to keep my lips sealed because I really, really recommend you go and read it. But what I will say is I love that each chapter, or most of the chapters, had like a little intro from a different character every time. Someone you've not met before in the story, giving their opinion on the female main character. So literally just these tiny intros at the start of the chapter, but they like really added to the story. Like it gave so much more credibility. And then it was also, there was a third point of view, if I can find it. So it was of the daughter of the female main character, and it was like her diary. Like she was off school for the summer and she's like written in her diary like her internal monologue as well. So yeah, highly recommend, 5 star. All the praise for this. So those were the 6 books I read in February, and now onto the 6 books that I'm going to read in March, and I have already started the first one, so I'm going to start there. You guys have been telling me over and over and over again, especially over on Instagram as well, to read Look Closer by David Ellis, so I have started it. I'm about 40 pages in and it's good so far. I mean, it's just set up, but yeah, this is my first read of March. So this follows a couple, Simon and Vicky, and it's told from both their points of view, but it also opens with a prologue of a different woman. So you're trying to like work out exactly how she's going to feed into this. I feel like this is going to be told like quite largely in flashbacks and about previous relationships they've had. That's the way it's kind of been presented, but even reading the synopsis, like, I don't really understand what the plot is going to be. I don't really understand where it's going to go. So I feel like it's just one of those that you just kind of have to ride the wave. It's got some incredible reviews, so I feel like it's a trust the process. Then if you can't tell, I've been trying to diversify my reading a little bit, just out of this like stereotypical psychological thriller, missing person, domestic thrill, because I have read so many of those books that they're all kind of merging into one, and I'm really trying to push myself a little bit more in 2025 in terms of what I'm picking up. So I'm still sticking to thrillers, but some like more literary thrillers, horror thrillers, etc, etc. So the next book on March's TBR is I Who Have Never Known Men, and I've seen a lot about this, and it comes across as a literary thriller, or maybe just like a literary novel. I think the premise is quite thriller based, so I think that's why I've been drawn to it, but I'm also very aware that it's going to be a lot of social commentary. So this follows 39 women who are in a basement, and they've just grown up underground. They know nothing of the outside world, nothing about men. And then a 40th woman is put into the situation, and I think they're like, well, this is our way out, like she's got in so we can get out. I imagine this is going to go to a point where they escape and then don't know what to do with themselves, but it may just be a captive story. I'm really not sure. It is quite a short one, so we're only looking at like 160-ish pages, so I'm gonna let you know what I think. I really don't know what I'm going to think of this one. And then as my romance palette cleanser of March, I'm going to read The 7-Year Slip. This has been recommended to me by my good friend Abby. This is like one of her favourite reads of all time. And now I'm running out of Abby Jimenez books. I was like, I'm going to have to go a different direction with this. So this one also includes a bit of magical realism, which is why I felt drawn to it. And I do feel like I'm really going to like it. It follows this woman who meets a guy and they really get on. I assume they fall in love. But then he is actually 7 years in the past or 7 years in the future. I don't know. Either way, they're not on the same timeline. Not quite sure how that's going to shape up, but it sounds like a really interesting story. So I actually got this one on my Kindle because I'm going to Rome this weekend, which is very, very exciting. I'm going to be there for like 5 days, so I definitely need some books on my Kindle because I'm not taking physical books in a tiny little carry-on suitcase. No way. Maybe one, but definitely no more than that. And you're going to see why I'm saying that, because the next book I'm going to read is The Business Trip by Jessie Garcia, and this hardback would take up like half my suitcase. So for the eagle-eyed viewers out there, this was on my TBR last month as well. Definitely going to read it this month. I don't know what happened in February, just kind of took a few detours in terms of what I picked up, but that's kind of the fun of it, I guess. But this one sounds incredible. So if you missed me chatting about it for my February TBR, this follows a couple of women who are on a plane and they know the same guy, receive the same texts from said guy, and then either they go missing or he goes missing. Yet to be decided, because I've obviously not read it. I don't like to read too much into the synopsis and about the books themselves that I'm choosing for my TBR, and I know that's so counterintuitive because then like how do I tell you guys about them? But I do like to go into books like not knowing very much. I don't know, it just makes it so much more exciting even when twists happen early on. But this was recommended to me by the lovely Caitlin B over on TikTok, who I love, so I just thought I'm just gonna trust her rec, you know? I'm just gonna trust it. Then it wouldn't be a reading month without another Mary Kubika book. I am getting there with her backlist now, guys. I think I've only got like 3 left. So the book that I'm going to read in March is Pretty Baby. Oh god, I've still got the Robin Harding book I've not read. Oh, is it too late to change my TBR? Okay, so I don't have Pretty Baby in paperback. It was a different Mary Kubika I thought I had. Have this one on Kindle, which works very well with the taking my Kindle to Rome situation. So this follows our female main character Heidi, who sees this woman and a baby and they're looking like a bit like they're living rough, and she takes them into her home to try and look after them and like do the right thing. But then by the sounds of it, she is going to get completely wrapped up in their drama, and the kind act that she has done has just turned into an absolute shitstorm. It's a Mary Kubika, probably gonna love it, probably gonna enjoy it, and I'm very excited to like read the last couple of books by this author so I can rank them all for you guys. That is going to be a very exciting video for me to make. And the final addition to this TBR, which was decided 20 seconds ago, is going to be The Vacancy in Room 10. I completely forgot that I had this in physical form. I recently saw this being recommended as like a thriller books you won't have heard of that are amazing style video, and I thought I already have this and I already recognise it, so probably going to be great. This looks like quite a short one as well, so I feel like this is going to be one that I can just pick up and read like in a couple of sittings. I haven't read anything by this author before, so excited to give her a go. So there are all the books I read in February and all the books that I'm going to read in March. Let me know which was your favourite pick of February. I'm always looking for more 5-star reads, of course. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.